Hello and welcome to the Pinellas County Ready, Set, Protect Hurricane Preparedness webinar for Pinellas County businesses. My name is Jess McCracken. I'm the whole community program specialist here with Pinellas County Emergency Management. We thank you all so much for joining us today. A few housekeeping items before we get started. This webinar is being recorded and will be made available via YouTube following the program. We absolutely encourage your participation, so feel free to submit your questions throughout the program via the Q&A feature, which you can find at the bottom toolbar on Zoom. All the information and resources, including the PowerPoint, will be sent out following the program, along with a link to the video of the webinar. As we approach hurricane season, Pinellas County residents should be getting their plans in order, supplies stocked, contacts updated. For businesses, it's more than just personal planning. Hurricane preparedness is so important for business owners and employers to ensure your business is prepared to recover from a hurricane. Last September, we watched as Hurricane Ian made landfall in Southwest Florida, causing widespread damage and disruption as the third costliest weather disaster on record and the deadliest hurricane to strike the state of Florida since 1935. Pinellas County was spared the hardest hit from the storm after being in the projected path for many days leading up to landfall. We saw with Hurricane Ian what we've seen with many of our past storms. Time is the one resource you cannot get more of. From the time we enter the cone, the clock is ticking, but the cone doesn't tell us the whole story. These are actual graphics from Hurricane Ian, and many people focus on the cone and have reported making crucial decisions based on the cone, including whether or not to evacuate. It's important to know that the cone only shows where the center of the storm is 2/3 of the time. It doesn't show us the projected impacts of the storm from the high winds, the heavy rains, and the most life-threatening, which is the projected storm surge. The first step in creating your plan for hurricane season is to know and understand your risk. What is your vulnerability to storm surge, wind, and flood? The cone is not the tool to assess these risks. Evacuation zones are built on storm surge models. So knowing your evacuation zone is knowing your risk of being impacted by storm surge, and this is critical. There are several ways you can look up your evacuation zone. You can visit disaster.pinellas.gov and go to Know Your Zone. If you have a landline in Pinellas County, you can dial 727-453-3150 to find out your evacuation zone at your home. And you can also download our Ready Pinellas app, which we will get into a little bit more when we start talking about communication methods. But on the Ready Pinellas app, it has a feature. You can press the button right there and put in your address on our Know Your Zone application, and it'll tell you your evacuation zone. Now, once you understand your risk, you can begin to make your plan. And again, planning for businesses is more than just personal planning, but personal preparation is a key component to hurricane season readiness. In March, Pinellas County Emergency Management hosted a personal preparedness webinar that walks through how to assess your risk and what we should be including in our personal preparedness plans. If you need guidance on making your personal plan, I definitely encourage you to take some time to watch this webinar. You can visit pinellas.gov/stay-informed, and you'll find the links to all of our recorded webinars. But the general preparedness webinar is available and posted in English and in Spanish. Another helpful resource is the 2023 Hurricane Guide. You can pick up a copy of the Hurricane Guide, or you can download an electronic copy via the QR code here on the screen, or again at disaster.pinellas.gov. The printed guides are available at Pinellas County libraries, municipal buildings, and Pinellas County offices, as well as the Lealman Exchange and the Center in Palm Harbor. Again, we will share this information in the resource guide to follow up. So sit back, relax, take it all in, and we will get all this information, all the important links and links to the Hurricane Guide as well. So once we have our personal preparedness plan and we know and understand our risk, we can focus on planning for our businesses, knowing that our families are safe and our homes are prepared. We are joined by an amazing panel today to talk about hurricane preparedness for businesses and to share resources to assist you in starting or updating your emergency plan. I'd love to welcome our panelists. Thank you, everybody, for joining us. With us, we have Ashley Giovanetti, the Senior Communications Coordinator with Pinellas County Communications, Dr. Cynthia Johnson, Director of Economic Development for Pinellas County, Stephen Hayes, President and CEO of Visit St. Pete Clearwater, and Don Callahan with Skywater On-Call Restoration. Thank you so much for being here today. Communication is a key component to any business's emergency plan before, during, and after a storm. Ashley, what are the communication tools available in Pinellas County, and where can we find important information?
Well, thank you, Jess. There are many different types and places that you can get up-to-date information and preparedness information for your business through Pinellas County. First and foremost, we have an updated website of pinellas.gov, and all of your preparedness and up-to-date information about disaster preparedness is at disaster.pinellas.gov. We also have an amazing alert warning system that you can sign up for to get up-to-date emergency alerts and important information, like whether or not a hurricane is on the way, whether to make sure that your business is locked down, and that is Alert Pinellas. You can make sure to sign up for that at disaster.pinellas.gov. We also have the Ready Pinellas app that you can download for iOS and Android. This is an amazing tool that helps you not only know what your zone is, find your risk, you can help make a plan, you can look up what your potential surge is, and you can see all the notifications for an upcoming storm. But this is a great tool not only for whether a storm is coming, but also to stay prepared. We also have various forms of social media through Pinellas County. We have our Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, and Instagram platforms. These are all Pinellas government communications, and they are up to date. And this is where you're going to find, along with the website and the applications, the most up-to-date information and important preparedness information for you and your business, and also recovery information for your business post-storm. In addition, we also have Nextdoor. So if there are areas that are geographically significant that we want to push out information to, we will do that using Nextdoor. So if there's one place that maybe it's a smaller storm, but there is a flooding risk, we'll make sure to push out that information specifically to geographic locations that are at risk for those flood events. We also recommend having a weather radio. It is very often that in the aftermath of a storm, cell phone towers, internet, power will go out, but radio is the first thing that you'll be able to actually get in touch with. So we want to make sure that you have a weather radio. This is absolutely one of the key ways to get information up to date. We also have PCC TV, which is Pinellas County Connection Television. That is our 24-hour television service that has key information and also shows our Board of County Commissioners meetings. So if we are to declare a emergency session or state of emergency for the county, you would find that out not only through all of the channels I had mentioned, but also through a live broadcast on PCC TV. Now, we know generally you're probably going to be finding information through our media as well. This is our local media, including Bay News 9, ABC Action, Channel 10, 13, whatever your favorite local news is to go to. We recommend always staying up to date with them as well. We're going to be communicating with them via news releases and news alerts and media alerts direct from Pinellas County government to our media partners. And we work very closely with them to make sure that they're giving you the most up-to-date information as well. And last but not least, we have, during a time of activation, we'll open up our county information center. And this is a call center and live chat operators that are available to you and your employees and your family and friends. If you have information that you need right away and you cannot find on any of the other channels. So those, when that is open, and you will know once we are activated whether that county information center is open, you'll be able to contact us depending on the hours. And you can also live chat when that is open. But you can also live chat 24 or 8 to 5, Monday through Friday, and leave a message and ask your questions in preparedness. And it doesn't necessarily, the county information center doesn't necessarily have to be open for that. So these are a lot of great resources. We recommend making sure that you have downloaded any of the appropriate applications, including Ready Pinellas, and that you're following us on all the social media platforms to stay connected. And especially if you have any questions or concerns pre, during, or post-storm.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Ashley. A lot of helpful information and a lot of great resources. And that is definitely part of any emergency plan, businesses and personal. So talking about business continuity planning, Dr. Johnson, what are some considerations for businesses as they start their plans for hurricane season?
Well, thank you, Jessica. As we talk about businesses and them being prepared for a hurricane, you know, a continuity plan is critical to that preparation. So for our businesses, one of the reasons why we have a plan is so that, one, we can prepare our employees as well as the business to be able to respond back to an incident. So no matter what the forecast is, whether it's a tropical storm, a hurricane, a pandemic, or something that will interrupt your business, a continuity plan is always critical to that preparation. So to prepare to recover, one of the key elements about the plan is making sure that the entire staff knows about the plan. It is nothing more inefficient than to create a plan and put it on the shelf and the staff never sees it and understand what's in that plan and what's about that plan. So the plan really is to address your operations and the communication that is needed following an incident so that everyone is on the same page and you're able to restore normal operations as soon as possible. So there are some key elements to a good plan. And a good plan really does identify where the operations will go if there was an incident and you don't have access back to the facility. So do you have a place where you have pre-identified where your staff can go and work, or do you turn your platform into a virtual platform, or do you have a process in which you can retrieve that data if you cannot get back into that building? Will the employees know who to call? Would they have their supply chain and their customer list? Do they have their vendor records with them? Do you have all of this information on backed up so that you can have it in a secondary place in case you're not able to get to your primary place? So developing the plan really does mean looking at the holistic business practices, and you want to look at your business and say, you know, how can I continue to operate efficiently if there was an incident? How many employees would it require us to get back to a functional state if there was an incident? And so you assess all of these items as you are writing the plan and going through the process. Another very critical part of the plan is really understanding where your important documents are. Do you have them on a travel drive? Do you have them stored in a secondary location? Do you have them in print format as well as electronic format that include tax records, legal documents, financial documents? And all of these documents are going to be critical to your ability to respond after an incident, to be able to access a lot of the federal opportunities that come after a disaster has been designated. And one thing I like to really share with the business community is there's a business impact analysis. Now, this analysis gives you a hypothetical scenario where you can input your information and they can give you an impact analysis based on a particular incident. So if we could put in the chat, www.ready.gov/business impact analysis, that's a link that will take you to this wonderful database that the federal government has prepared with every document you can think of to get you prepared. So we know that historically, small businesses in particular, if they are impacted by an incident, they have a less likelihood of coming back from that incident. In fact, the Small Business Development Center estimates about 40% of the businesses that are hit, small businesses that are hit by an incident, don't reopen. Next slide, please. So we want to make sure that our businesses do stay open and they do thrive. So we are very adamant about providing tools and resources to help businesses do that, because we believe that if we take the time to prepare now, to get ready, and then we're set when the storm, then we're able to respond and recover quicker. So some of the tools that we have shared with you all that will be also added into the chat is the business toolkit. This toolkit from ready.gov includes an entire continuity planning suite where you can pick select types of businesses, and it gives you a template on how to really write that continuity plan. But if you're not comfortable trying to figure out which way should you go, you have some available resources right here at your fingertips here in Pinellas County. Some of our resources are through the Florida Small Business Development Center here at Pinellas County Economic Development. We have consultants who are certified and trained who will help you write a business continuity plan. And you can just visit our website at pced.org/SBDC and schedule an appointment with a consultant. And they will sit down and help you analyze your business and help you identify what are the critical areas that you need to include in your business continuity planning. Also, our partners at the Tampa Bay Regional Planning Council can assist with business continuity planning. They have some tools that they make available to ensure that businesses are ready, willing, and able to recover from an incident. One of the partners at the Tampa Bay Regional Planning Council and Pinellas County Emergency Management have worked really hard together. And I just wanted to throw a little shout out to Brian at the Planning Council. Brian has been very critical in pulling the stakeholders together to create scenarios for us to really have an idea of what our community could look like if it was impacted by a major storm or incident. So I will want to share with you all a critical project that we all participated in the region called Project Phoenix. Project Phoenix is a hypothetical scenario of a Cat 5 storm and what our community would look like if such a thing happened here in the Tampa Bay region. It also helps us identify where the flood zones are, where the evacuation zones are, And it really is a good learning tool and a very good reminder that we can't, as a community, get complacent around getting prepared for hurricanes. And before I toss the ball over to my colleague, I just wanted to make a comment about the state of complacency that we are noticing here in the Tampa Bay region. We have been very fortunate not to have gotten a direct hit in many years, but I can tell you it does not negate the fact that we need to stay ready and prepared so that if the day should come when an incident hits our community, we are ready to position ourselves for swift and effective recovery during that time. Next
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Dr. Johnson, for sharing those tools and resources. We definitely encourage you to take advantage of these professionals that work with this every day and can help you start to think about the business continuity planning and even sit down with you to provide these resources.
You know, Jessica, before you move on to the next, I just wanted to just make a comment. And, you know, an hour today can really save you a headache for tomorrow. And I always share with businesses is that if you spend, 4 hours or you spend $1 working on your business plan, it can save you thousands and sometimes millions in mitigation expenses that you have taken the time today to do and to plan for what may happen tomorrow. Is worth the effort. Thank you.
Absolutely, Dr. Johnson. That's a fantastic point. Thank you so much for sharing those tools and resources. Again, we'll be putting these in the chat and sending these out after the program. I want to move now to talk a little bit about after the storm. So after the storm, vendors will be in high demand, especially following a widespread catastrophe. So I'd like to bring Dawn on to talk about how can businesses prepare for vendors being in high demand, and what other considerations can we think about to expedite recovery that we should be including in our plan?
Hello, everybody. I'm Dawn with Skywater On Call. It's very important, obviously, to get your vendor relationship set up ahead of time prior to any storm occurring. I usually would take advantage of the 6 months prior to hurricane season to build those relationships. These restoration contractors have national accounts that they've committed to throughout the United States. And even though there might be a disaster here locally, they also have commitments throughout other states that could have other disasters at the time. So very important to build those relationships with your contractors, the key critical ones being a restoration company, as well as your roofer, debris removal, landscaper. Keep in mind, debris removal is different than landscaper. Sometimes, you might want to get a tree removal company because you're not aware that, the city or the county is only going to clean up their particular what they're responsible for. So there's a lot of different things that you can do. I was going to talk about other things as well. For example, one of the simplest things the first thing you definitely need to make sure you're doing is getting your business income and business interruption set up. Also making sure that you have an accurate replacement cost and business income valuation from your insurance broker. If evaluations were conducted previously, consider how long ago that has been, and if there has been any significant changes, such as your asset or even your location has changed. But it's very important to document the property before a storm arrives. So again, 6 months out of the year, from June to November, we have to technically be concerned for a storm. So come January, start making those updated photographs of your property, taking videos, any type of 3D mapping technology that is out there. If your coworker's son has a drone, pay him $100 and ask him to come out and take a photo of an aerial view of your property. Because keep in mind, and I'm not a broker, so I can't talk too depth, but insurance companies are going to say no 3 times before they say yes. So they're looking out for themselves. So you need to make sure you're able to prove that damage occurred during that storm, because there are scrupulous contractors out there. So the carriers are a little bit more apt to push back, if you will. So very important to confirm with the insurer that the policy is current and that your terms and conditions and limits are well understood by not only you, but also anybody on your team. One critical factor for any business disaster plan is how to protect your data. Very important to make sure that your servers and all of your data is protected, or a way that maybe you need to switch that data over if the storm is approaching. So again, get with your carrier ahead of time. If you have an assigned adjuster to your policy, ask them ahead of time, what documents do I need to have? What type of paperwork would assist me to make this claim go through quicker? Because again, you're just another number. They've got hundreds of thousands of claims, and unfortunately, you're not a priority for them. So you have to make those steps yourself. It's very important to create a business continuity plan that addresses this and how to expedite your recovery and to avoid interruption. But just like Dr. Cynthia had mentioned, you may not be able to do it all in one day, but take advantage of those resources. Make it once a week, sit down and gradually build that business continuity plan. Maybe the first year it's not as solid as the second, but as you make those steps each year, it's going to build and build from there. Also, once the storm passes, the first step must be communication. Contact everyone to address safety concerns and identify their needs. When you are making your business continuity plan, have a roundtable. Who's responsible for what? And again, understanding each person's role in regards to that recovery process is important, because maybe that coworker is not going to show up after a storm straight back to the business if their family's been impacted and their mom isn't safe. So again, making sure that you understand that. After also, post-storm, document your damage, contact your insurance agent to discussing how to file a claim, contact employees to check on them, making sure ahead of time of a storm, are you prepared? What can we do to make sure that your home is prepared so you can get back to work right away? We usually let our employees go home 72 to 48 hours before a storm approaches, and we allow them to get their family ready because we need them back, right, to help us to help our clients. Also, relocation. What if you can't get back to your business and you can't work from there after a storm? Do you have an offsite location? Thankfully, I guess we've all had practice during COVID how to work from home. But again, understanding if our business, our structure has been impacted, how are we able to keep this ball moving? Photos of the building and contents is important. Also, your insurance review, backing up your data. Again, pre-register with a restoration contractor and your critical vendors. You can have more than one restoration company. If they tell you that you have to sign only with them, move on to the next. There's a million out there. Ask for their business continuity plan. What are you going to do if the storm approaches? How do I know you're going to be here for me? Also, there's certain things, making sure you update your maintenance records, emptying out your dumpsters ahead of time before the storm approaches. Also getting any kind of required inspections. Also a line of credit. You need to make sure if you have any kind of financial struggles, you have a line of credit built up ahead of time, because when the storm is here, the bankers aren't going to give you a line of credit at that time. So that's very important. Create and share your plan with your employees. Understand too, what can all of your employees do? Maybe there's somebody who has a skill trait that you don't know about, CPR. Again, it's very important that you take the time to be prepared. In regards to the cone that Jessica spoke of, I try to let people know it's called the cone of uncertainty. You need to take that line and do an 80-mile radius around there. That's where the storm could go. At any time, the storm could be impacted and switch and change. So again, making sure that you are prepared, reaching out to those key vendors, giving your roofer contractor that Christmas card, making sure your landscaper is going to be there for you, because they do have other clients that are a priority. And where do you lie on there? Going through these 10 tips for recovery: implement your disaster plan, assess damage, and consider a backup location is needed. Shift your team and leadership preparedness to recovery. Again, when you do your roundtable and you talk about a mock hurricane coming, as much as you may not think it helps, it does help. Just talk through it. What are we going to do if this happened here? How could we continue to work? I recommend even maybe having an out-of-state, sister, person that can assist you. Maybe you have to have, making sure you update your 1-800 line. So as your clients are calling or your customers are calling, you can kind of update them on that line if there's a down, if the power lines are down, and ways to not communicate, utilizing your website so they know, hey, we're still here, we're still here to help. But the main thing I want to stress to everyone is safety. Life safety is the most critical. So after a storm passes, don't just go run around your property and start looking at everything. You need to be very careful. Down power lines, people getting electrocuted, as much as you want to start the recovery process quickly, sometimes slowing down is best. Really understanding what your damage is and what road ahead of you have. If someone comes knocking on your door right after a storm, says, hey, I'm here, I can help clean up right now, be careful not to just sign up with anybody. Read your paperwork. There are scrupulous contractors that will come up, and you never know what you're signing. So again, ahead of the storm, start making those relationships. Encourage your employees to take appropriate actions and communicate, document damage, and file an insurance claim and track recovery. It is your responsibility to mitigate immediately. If you're waiting for your insurance adjuster to show up after a storm, they may not arrive between a week to 2 weeks. So again, understanding what your responsibility as a business owner is very important. I know your policies are very overwhelming, but it doesn't hurt to sit down with your broker and understand what your deductible is, what they are going to cover, what they're not going to cover. Cultivate your partnerships within the community with businesses, government, and nonprofits. You never know how you may be able to help one another. Provide employee support and assistance. Let them know ahead of time. Get your family secure, because I need you back here to help get our business up and running. So again, we let our employees go home 72 hours before the storm. Prepare your family, get them set, because once that storm passes and the roads are safe, we're going to need you back to work to help us recover. Connect with the chambers of commerce, economic development, all in the chat. All those links are very critical. Document lessons learned and update your plan. Again, it's very important just to take your time to do this. Again, it can be a little overwhelming at first, but you can gradually build on that disaster recovery plan. And if anyone would like to reach out, Dawn Forrest Callahan, known as Disaster Dawn in the industry, and I'd be happy to share links as well and different websites. But again, go to the chat. All of those resources will allow you to be prepared. And I appreciate the opportunity to speak with the panelists.
Thank you so much, Disaster Dawn. That was a lot of information. A lot of great helpful tips, especially the insurance tidbits. Insurance is not something everybody likes to talk about, but it is definitely something to be used as a preparation technique. We cannot stop the storm from coming, but we can make sure that our insurance is in a good place to get us back to at least ground zero when we sustain damage from a storm. So thank you so much, Dawn. Mr. Steve Hayes, I would love to hear from you as we continue this discussion of preparedness and recovery. I think it's important we discuss the role of businesses in disasters. Can you share with us the role your team plays as we prepare for, endure, and recover from storms?
Well, thanks for having me, and such great information here. It's interesting. In our normal everyday jobs, we're trying to tell people what a beautiful place we have and get people to visit. Unfortunately, when there's a storm, it's the opposite. And we want to be able to accommodate people that haven't been able to evacuate, but also let people that maybe it's not the right time to come visit our beautiful destination. So when you look at, and one of the things I want to bring up right now, we've been talking about, a storm, and maybe as it's approaching, the Pinellas County as a whole, but we also need to be aware of what's happening in other parts of the state, because again, some of the comments I'm going to make, we may not have a storm, but another place might, and we still need help. And so think about it from this: if we were 100% occupied between hotel rooms as well as what I'll call vacation rentals or peer lodging like Airbnb, that's roughly about 42,000 rooms in the county. And if you look at a party size of 2.7, that's almost 113,000 people that are here. And, emergency operations is sitting there and saying, okay, we've got a storm coming. How do we let those folks know that they need to maybe go home and find their way out of the state in a time that's appropriate? for them to get out without being, the crowded roads, as well as lots of other people going on. But the other side of that as well is think about the lodging properties and their staff, and being able to prepare and let them go home and take care of their families and get their own houses prepared. So for us, I think the key thing is keeping the industry updated of what is happening out there. And and again, look at it. We do storm updates usually twice a day. And it's exactly what comes out of the Emergency Operations Center. The verbiage doesn't change. It just goes out to our email list. And if there's one thing I can say, and Dr. Johnson with her team, the folks with emergency operations, you might be on the same list 10 times. And what we're hoping is at least one of those times you're going to catch that email of what's going on. Because again, when a storm comes up, everything's pretty busy. So those updates are extremely important. You could also print that update and make it available to your guests so they know what's going on. Again, we talked about the cone, and it's great to have that kind of visual that's out there. But again, you just can't concentrate on that because again, things can go through and change. When I talk about the rest of the state, think about with Michael, even though it hit in North Florida, you had folks that were evacuating here looking for availability. Same thing, with Irma, even though Irma was off our coast, we were having to go through and evacuate people. So pre-storm, actually, I'm going to say that what needs to be done now is really getting, one is we need to make sure that we understand from the lodging perspective, all of your information, especially key contacts. We may have your evacuation zone, the number of rooms, do you go through and accept pets? Those are all key things that we need to know, and I'll explain why here in a minute. I think also now is the time to go through and sign up for a couple other programs where you can get on a list. And one of those that I think is extremely important is one that is operated with FEMA, and it's a lodging program because if you choose to participate in that, then FEMA has a list that they can go to when they need rooms. And I'll give you a great example with Ian and sitting there in the Emergency Operations Center. And here we are, we're breathing a sigh of relief because we did not get the storm in our area. But FEMA came in and said, hey, I need this amount of rooms because we're looking at taking people from assisted living facilities in Fort Myers, and we need to find them places up here. And they put the word out. And so the more of that information that's out and available, the quicker we can react. And again, that's something that goes through that FEMA can go through and pay for, but you got to be on the list. In addition to that, there are two programs. One is through Expedia and one is through Airbnb. So if you're a vacation rental at Airbnb, VRBO type provider, they've gone through and will provide free lodging. And again, they've got folks that have signed up to go through and provide that, especially for evacuees. The same thing with Expedia. And I'll tell you on that one, that's done through Visit Florida. And when the governor comes on and says, if you're looking for a place to stay and they put the website up, we know that gets a lot of hits. So getting our hotels and our lodging to be part of that, I think, is critically important. And again, that's now. This is, here we are, the middle part of May. That's, signing up now, gets that all taken care of so that you can concentrate on the things when storm season does get here, on keeping your place going. So again, pre-storm, again, keep time for your employees, that they can get home and take care of their families. Keeping our guests informed of what's going on out there. Again, keep in mind, if we had to evacuate everybody, think about from a road perspective, how many people that is either going to the airport or driving to go through it and get out of harm's way. Post-storm, we're kind of looking for something different. On that one, we're looking at availability of rooms from the standpoint of like emergency responders, but also residents, and those that may not have been impacted by the storm. So, if you're in an evacuation zone A and the storm is done, more than likely we're not going in there right away until the damage has been assessed and things are opening back up. And that was the case last year with Ian. You had beach properties that were ready to be open, but there was no power. But we had properties inland that had availability. So again, having being able to show that to folks that are coming to our website. And again, we have a website that will show not only availability of rooms, but also potentially who is sold out. And if you go to V is in Victor, S is in Saint, and P is in Paul, and C is in Clearwater. .info, you're able to go through and find out, the latest availability, and we update that. We try to update that at least twice a day, and we get that by calling the properties to get the information. The other element as well, and again after the storm, is understanding, from a damage perspective, what is done, so that we can actually go through and not refer someone to a property maybe that isn't ready to accommodate guests. And you certainly saw that with Ian down in Fort Myers and Naples in that area. And then the other part is recovery updates. And again, anything that we get from emergency operations, we will pass along and update our industry. Again, go through as we get the updates, we will pass along to them. So again, it's critically important, that we have all the right information. And again, I know when I say from an email perspective, even though you may not get it, you may not see the email from me, but if you see it from Dr. Johnson's team, or you see it from emergency operations and you see it twice, that's great. But the more times you can see it, I think just lends the urgency of action.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for the information, Steve. A lot of great information and resources. Again, check the chat. We've been putting that information there for you, and we'll be sending this out to you following the program. I appreciate that information from you, Steve. Dr. Johnson, let's keep on the after the storm expectations, but what are some after the storm considerations for business owners, especially for those businesses that have experienced damage to their properties from the storm?
Thank you, Jessica. After the storm, things get a little hectic. However, my colleagues made some excellent points. Don talking about the primary concern is life and safety first. And Steve talked about how we have to have a consistent message and how we really have to use our various platforms to make sure that we're always sharing as much information as possible so that our citizens can make good, solid decisions on how they will manage after the storm. Well, the state of Florida has what we called a business damage assessment survey. This damage assessment is critical for industry. In order for the governor to declare an area as impacted with damage and get assistance from the federal government through FEMA, there has to be an assessment of that area that shows impact. So this, what you see in front of you, the damage assessment, is a snapshot of the website, floridadisaster.biz. On this website, there is this particular damage assessment. And we are asking if there is a business owner that has any damage, that they fill this out. Now, you're not going to know exactly how much the damage is and what the value is, but we're asking that you put in some some hypothetical numbers based on what you can see and get this form in as soon as possible. There is a certain quota, depending on the incident, that we have to receive enough information from our community that says hey, we are hurting. We have been impacted by this storm. We have these damage assessments and we need federal assistance. When the governor receives this information, he aggregates all of that data across the state. And then that's when he gets that declaration from FEMA that says, hey, Pinellas County, X County, Y County has been declared a disaster area. And so thereby FEMA and other resources can come down to those communities. Also on this same website is a primary damage assessment that also looks at housing. How has your house been damaged? Please, take pictures. One of the things that I know we've talked about, take pictures, make sure you have photos. But on a blue sky day, take pictures. On a day when there's no sun, no storm, go out, take pictures of your assets. If you're a business owner, take pictures of your equipment, take pictures of your facility, take pictures of all of those critical components that are vital to you restoring your level of service. Take pictures on a blue sky day. When you have those blue sky pictures, and then when you get this damage assessment and you have to take pictures after the fact of the comparison of what you had evidence of and what you no longer have access to or is not functional, it makes it easier for you to, one, make the claim for the economic impact and for the fiscal impact that one may have encountered through a storm. And also with doing this damage assessment online, what it does, it triggers technical assistance. So it's a component on this damage assessment that says, do you want some follow-up service? Do you want a business consultant to come out and help you, do an assessment of your damage? Do you want us to send, disaster mental health resources? So there's an area on here where not only we look at just the damage assessment, but we ask you, how can we help you moving forward? So that this particular damage assessment is really critical to the urgency in which we can get federal funding to our local area. Next slide, please. The other is when you have that picture before the incident where you could really show, there may have been other items in the yard that are no longer there because of the storm. And so we really want you to invest in blue sky picture moments and then taking the appropriate pictures after the storm. Some of the things that we have a common thread when we start talking about being prepared, being responsive, and then being ready for the recovery. And that is creating resiliency through everything that we are doing as a community. So community resiliency is really about the community's ability to prepare and anticipate and prepare for unanticipated natural hazardous disasters that may come to our community. Next slide, please. So this is just another example of pictures that when you say, what should I take a picture of? Whatever you can think of taking a picture of, from the windows to underneath the house. Again, keeping in mind life safety first when you take those pictures. Next slide, please. So once you have all of this, we're looking at, okay, we're also talking about, we've talked about during the storm, after the storm. What can we do right now today to make sure that our businesses are resilient and our communities are resilient? Well, what we can do in order to maintain and keep these resilient communities that we have come to love and cherish, whether it's our home or our business, and our families or our employees or our fellow citizens, is really think about all of the information that we've received today, from continuity planning to managing your communication network, to really understanding what does it cost for you to return to operations at least 50% to be able to function and maintain your business operations, to the fact that your supply chain is bigger than just the grocery store or the Home Depot. Your supply chain is, where does your product come from? Are they going to be able to bring it in? Are the roads going to be closed? If your supply chain is coming from another country, is airlines, are they going to be impacted? So if they are, then do you have another local area where you may have some inventory that you can access quickly after a storm? It's all of these things that you typically just don't think about. And that's why we offer the assistance between the Tampa Bay Regional Planning Council, the Florida Small Business Development Center. These professionals can help probe and make you think about areas that you don't particularly think about all the time when you're planning your day. It's just like, getting in your car and driving to work, or getting in a car and taking your kids to school. That's what you do. You just do it. You don't necessarily plan out the route every day, but sometimes having someone there to help probe and make that happen, it does make for a better outcome. But one of the things I really wanted to just hit on in the last few moments that we have is the fact that communication is key and words do matter. How we understand each other depends on at least how do we define resiliency? How do we define continuity? How do we define sustainable communities? There needs to be a common language that communities and business owners need to have so that the employees understand the language, as well as when we're speaking with the community, that the community understands the language. Lastly, in recovery of a community, we must not forget the human element. Government, first responders, neighbors, churches, families, friends will all be there to help in whatever capacity they're able to help in. But the onus is really on us individually to make sure that we take the time to prepare, to pretend, have some little dry runs, and then to proceed with whatever plan of action we have put into place to ensure that our life and safety is number one priority when we're looking at being prepared to deal with the aftermath or the preparation of an upcoming incident. And so in order for us to continue to have resilient communities, I suggest that, you stay informed, sign up for Alert Pinellas and the eAlert Hurricane News. You can also subscribe to the PCED situational report. And as Steve said earlier, the information that Steve is pushing out to his database is the information that economic development is pushing out through our database. We push out emergency management information so that we are providing you, the citizens of Pinellas County, with consistent messaging. So you know that the information you're receiving is the most current and up-to-date information that we have available. Again, there is the Florida Disaster.biz, where you can get the disaster form. And it's key to note that that business disaster form is only activated if there is an incident in your community, because we don't want to mislead the public that they can, fill that form out anytime they like. The form only is activated when a certain community has experienced an incident. And then lastly, visit PinellasPCE.org. That's Pinellas County Economic Development.org. And that's where you can find the latest hurricane business related toolkits that we have put on our site to make available for you to use and for you to share with your neighbors, colleagues, employees, and business owners. And lastly, Jessica, I just wanted to say, I appreciate that emergency management and all of the partners at Pinellas County really take preparation seriously. I know that we have been very fortunate to not have had a direct hit, but it's always important to be ready. So thank you for the invitation, and I appreciate you allowing me to share my time with you today.
Thank you so much, Dr. Johnson. If we could have all of our panelists rejoin us. I want to give a special thanks for everybody giving their time to come and participate in the webinar today. I can't tell you how beneficial this information is, and I know it is a lot of information, but we will wrap it all up in a resource guide for you so you have those links and access to the websites and the hurricane guide, and everybody provided such great information. Thank you so much. We don't have any questions, so hopefully that means that we answered everything for you and provided you with everything that you're thinking that you're going to need to start or update your continuity plan. But if you do come across something or something pops up, you can always email our team at ema@pinellas.gov. And if it's for somebody on the panel that you don't have their contact information, we can get that forwarded so we can get your questions answered. But thank you so much for joining us. You've taken the first step in preparing for the 2023 season, and we hope everybody stays safe. Thank you so much.